Hey guys, it's M4J here and welcome back to the Jeffries network here on OpenTTD. Today we are introducing a brand new project, a very big project. It's going to take a long time, several weeks I would imagine, to fully implement. I'm not particularly looking forward to doing the really tedious parts of this project. However, I think the entire project is necessary. The network was starting to grind to a halt really, because of the magnitude of services we were running on particular lines and the lack of organisation on my part to make sure that those lines were built and functioned correctly. So you tell by the episode of the title of this episode what the major project is. I don't really know why I'm holding you back in suspense. The main project is going to be called the Realism Initiative, and it's something that I did mention a little while ago. Sort of as a fleeting glance. I said, oh, by the way, I'm thinking of doing this, and then carried on talking about something else. The way it's going to work is, in the real life world, on the UK rail network, there are speed limits. Each speed limit has been designed very carefully so that passenger comfort is the main concern. So timetabling wise, it kind of takes a back seat. Passenger comfort, and I suppose timetabling does play a factor as well in certain areas of the country, but it's about getting people around the country as fast but as comfortable as possible, and that's what the Realism Initiative is also going to introduce. So at the moment, these two lines here out of Bar City are not going to be involved in the Realism Initiative because they already are under the Realism Initiative. But here, very good example, all of the lines out of GSG. The speed limit is 25 miles an hour. I believe that is the case for all lines now coming in out of GSG. These two sections here will be rebuilt accordingly. More on that in a second. Once the trains get to Plint Bridge, I think it's 60 miles an hour or 45 miles an hour on the slow lines here, and then you hit this and suddenly it jumps up to, I think it's either 75 or 100, I can't remember which one now. That's quite a step up. Accelerating is fine because the train accelerates quite slowly, but decelerating, in fact we'll see, this train is coming in at 75 miles an hour, it hits this waypoint and its speed drops to 45. Now imagine losing 35 miles an hour of your speed in the space of 10 meters, let's say. That's going to hurt. That's going to hurt a lot. So, the Realism Initiative is going to introduce new sets of waypoints to try and increase the stopping distances, shall we say, on certain services. It's also going to make sure that where there are severe bends, which I don't think there are on this line, but here, for example, there is a curve here, the speed limit will be appropriate, so 30 miles an hour around all corners like this. If it's a couple of tiles longer, it will be 45, especially here as well. I think the trains actually go 60 along this section. This section of track here will be rebuilt to allow that to remain the case. It all sounds a bit complicated, I know. There will be a spreadsheet, because I'm very good at creating spreadsheets it turns out, that will have all speed limits of all routes. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, at the moment I'm going to make it private because, well, I'll explain why in just a second. If you are interested in that though, you can always ask for me to make the link public. I'm more than happy to do that. I just think at this moment in time it makes more sense to keep it private because, you know, it's not the most exciting of subjects, but it just means that all routes now will be more realistic, hence the name Realism Initiative. It's really nice to see that we've got lots of freight being conveyed across this route. Goods, chemicals. Where are the goods going? Does this place accept goods? It doesn't. Bit odd. Not quite sure where those goods are going then. Oh well. The next part of the Realism Initiative will also involve a cascading of trains. So currently Guard City is the capital and always will be the capital. Bar City is not the capital, however Bar City has better trains. Now I'm not biased towards London per se, but I do kind of like the idea of the most populous areas of the country getting the newer trains because they're always built to increase capacity, and then other areas of the country get cascaded units. Now, yes, I understand that some people don't want to have London's hand-me-downs. Personally, I think a lot of people do kind of make a fuss about nothing over that kind of thing, because really, particularly in London at the moment, the 707s have just been introduced on South Western Railway services. They're being replaced in the next, I think it's 4 to 5 years, by Adventurers, which means there'll be trains that are only 4 to 5 years old up for releasing. Now, if a train company like Northern decided to lease those units and cascade them up to services out of Manchester, Liverpool, that kind of thing, I can't imagine, I mean, I know there will be, but I can't imagine many people will be justified to argue that it's just another one of London's hand-me-downs, because the trains are brand new, essentially, and they're technically not London hand-me-downs, they're Berkshire hand-me-downs. So these are trains that have run to really nice locations such as Reading and Windsor, which, you know, themselves are normally victims of cascading units. So that's what we're going to do on here as well. We'll be cascading units, and in some cases we will just reset the timetable and plan a new journey for them to run down to the depots in Bar City. In some cases we'll have to send them to the depot, attach a diesel locomotive to the front and haul them down to Bar City. But we will be doing that, basically to make sure that all the right trains are in all the right places. What else in the Realism initiative? So I've said about slowing down for stations, slowing down for curves. There's a thing in the UK called Morpeth boards. They're like warning. Basically, there's a place in the northeast of England called Morpeth, and it's on the East Coast Main Line, and the track speed, I don't know what it is before this place, but there's a 50-mile-an-hour bend, and loads of trains were derailing on this bend because they weren't prepared for the sudden drop in speed. So a new type of sign was created, which has now been called a Morpeth board, which is the advanced warning of a speed limit change. It's also attached to AWS, so I think ATP is the other one, automatic train protection. So as you're running along, particularly if you're playing a game like Train Simulator, as you're running along you'll see a little yellow triangular sign with a speed limit in it. At the same time, the AWS or the ATP will activate, you'll cancel the alarm, and that's warning you that the speed limit at the next speed post will be a reduction in speed. It happens a lot, in case people are wondering why the AWS just randomly decides to go off like that. It's the speed limit warning. We'll be creating waypoints that do that as well. They might not have much function other than we'll call them Morpeth board or something like that. The other thing I want to try and bring in, but this is going to be a lot of work, I understand, is mileposts, because mileposts and waypoints can go hand in hand. The only thing about this game that I would struggle with is how many tiles is a mile is the question. Now I'm sure loads of people have loads of different answers. For me, I don't really have an answer. I don't know really what the scale is, because I would say something like each tile is 10 meters, but then that makes this station only 60 meters long, which I don't think is that long. I think certain carriages are, well, put it in context, the Crossrail platforms are between 200 and 240 meters, which is half of a running track in athletics. The high-speed 2 platforms that are being built, something I didn't mention last episode actually, was the crew hub for high-speed 2's almost been given the go-ahead, and as part of that they're extending one of the platforms to be 400 meters long, so that high-speed trains can split and join at that point before running onto high-speed 2 or running along the West Coast Main Line. That's a running track. If you ever look at a running track and think that's a long way, that's 400 meters. And that's how long these platforms will be. So imagine how long it would take to walk it. And I imagine the platforms at Euston will be the same, and at Curzon Street, and at the new Piccadilly station and all that kind of thing. Long platforms. So yeah, the question is, how long is a tile? If anyone does know the answer or has a very good guess at the answer, feel free to drop a comment down below with your answer, because that could help a lot when it comes to planning out mileposts and stuff. Now, there's not much I'm actually going to be doing in this episode itself. One thing I will be doing is getting up the rail tab. The next thing I'll be doing is getting up the train tab, because we are going to do one thing today, and that's all the services that currently do not operate using the RI, which is what we're going to be calling Realism initiative from now on. So all trains will be operating either under RI or not under RI. So Centre Rail services, all of them currently do not operate under RI. So we're going to send you to the depot. All the freight trains currently don't. City Connects, actually City Connects kind of does, but I think that City Connects itself needs an upgrade, because these are some of the services that are going to have trains cascaded. So we're going to send all of them to the depot. Food trains, we haven't got any. Guard City Connect, again, they don't operate under RI. And I'm also going to use this as an opportunity to split the services here. So they're not all going to run from Sunnington. Some of them are going to run from maybe Honningville. So again, send to depot. Guard City Great Northern definitely does not operate using RI, so they're all going to be sent to the depot. The Metro is irrelevant. So is Overground, to be honest, because it technically already does run via RI. What I might do off camera between episodes is just check the waypoints on the Overground loop to make sure they are all in the right place. But apart from that, I'm pretty happy with that. Guard City Southern, send to depot. Guard North, send to depot. Again, there's lots of trains here, which is pretty cool. Grand Central does operate using RI. There are waypoints. However, some of these trains I'd like to convert back to HST. In fact, I thought I had. There we go. I knew there was something missing. Great Eastern doesn't operate using RI. And again, I want to rebuild Henning Hall Junction, so we're going to do that. Great Western also doesn't use RI. The HLR are relevant. High Speed. Do you know what? Yes, I think the high-speed network needs a massive overhaul anyway, so we're going to do that. Mail Rail, they should already be in depot, but I'm just going to check. Yep, good. M4J Rail Freight, again, the freight trains sort of already do run on RI, and they run at reduced speeds anyway, so it doesn't matter too much. North Rail, oops. North Rail, you need to be sent to depot. Again, North Rail is probably going to have some of the cascaded trains, actually. But I imagine we're going to get new trains running on certain services. So I'm looking forward to doing that. Stopping via Guard City. What are you? Oh, yes. You don't operate on RI. So we're going to send you to depot. West Wind Line. Send to depot. Western Reaches. Definitely send to depot, particularly as we've rebuilt Sanley now. Sanley, sorry, not Sanley. And also Cross Country, send to depot. Now actually, Cross Country is a very good example. So, a long time ago I said about George Silver asking about changing service patterns, extending services, narrowing services, changing operator. That is something we're going to do. So essentially, at the moment, all Cross Country services start, or at least run through, Denston. And I always forget where Denston is on the map. There it is. So we have this cross-country depot here. We're going to keep the cross-country depot here. However, most of these cross-country services are actually going to be relocated. Or at least their terminus stations are going to be relocated. So Denston is going to become a through station for cross-country and not necessarily a terminus. How that's going to work is as follows. The idea is to not use Guard City at all for cross-country services. Guard City Connect services, obviously, clues in the name. They go through Guard City. That's how we can run a service between Sanley and Beffingway through Guard City. Cross Country is not going to be using that. Denston is pretty much, I was about to say smack bang in the middle of the map. Not quite. It's a bit too far south. So maybe Henning Hall we can apply the same rules, or Drenninghead is a bit more central. But from always lose it. Where is it? I've actually lost the line now as well, which doesn't help. Follow this one in. There it is, Denston. So it is that big, massive track. That really should be a clue, shouldn't it? So from the south, the line splits just here, and we will have some services. We'll be building new lines from the south here in the future, particularly this line here, which is the Guard City Southeastern route. City Connect uses it at the moment, but it runs down to places like Tuningly Estelle. Let me minimize this. We're going to be running services from Bar City via Denston up to so say up here, Sunnington. We'll also be running services from where are we? Here, which is Plenborough, which will then also run up through one of the, actually maybe from Sanley, through one of the lines that we haven't built yet, one of these connecting lines, which will also end up running through Denston and then up to somewhere closer to Grunwell. Now I'm not saying that they will run from one end of the map to the other, but it will be on those routes, if that makes sense. And then we'll have smaller suburban type cross-country services, a bit like the units that run between Stansted and Nuneaton, I think is that route. I've never ridden on a cross-country train on that particular line. I've ridden on a cross-country unit. It was a 170 between Ely and Norwich. I think it was a cross-country service. It might not have been, thinking about it. It might have been Greater Anglia. Anyway, they will use this depot here still, and they'll run from Denston either to the north or to the south to various locations. So I would still like to do the journey between Denston and Bar City as more of a stopping service, same as between between Denston and Guard City. The problem with having two cities like Guard City and Bar City is when you're trying to say them both at the same time quite quickly, it can be very difficult to actually get your tongue around it. What was I saying? Oh yeah. So we're going to try and get the stopping services between Denston and those two major cities. Maybe not GSM-A. I might run them into GSJ instead. And he said GSP then. We could do GSP as well, I suppose. But just to try and separate the express services from the stopping services a bit more. Cross country is going to get a massive overhaul. Services are going to be extended. The last thing really I want to say in this episode, it's a shorter episode than usual today, with not much getting done, so I do apologise for that. You'll notice down here, something I've only just noticed myself, as well as the date and the year, there's also a time. So at the moment it's 3:40. If I head over to a massive station like GSG, and I were to click on this, and click departures, look at this. Look how awesome this is. If we close these down, these are the next trains that will be leaving GSG, and it also shows where they're going. So the next train will be going to Fort Flonwood Parkway. I kind of wish it would show the group, or at least like the, I think there's a way of, is it interface, departure boards, there we go. We want to show more than 10. Let's do 20. Calculate departures every, we want this quite high, otherwise it's going to make the game really chug. So it's not going to be the most accurate. Show vehicle name, show group name. That's what we want, I think. Maybe not. Company name? That's quite cool. M4J Transport. I almost want to set up different companies now with all the franchise names, so that we can get the actual thing. What am I talking about? The correct information for each service. Show arrival and departure times on the same line. That's actually quite handy. I'm going to have that switched on. Show icons for destinations that are docks or airports. Yeah, I like that. Use larger font for stations called at on departure boards. So if I do that, yeah, I quite like it small. I think you guys should be able to see that. Show vehicle type icon in silver. I mean, there should all be trains here anyway, so that's irrelevant. Show vehicle type icon. Yeah, again, we know they're all trains. Show company name. Don't need to do that. Only show departures for vehicles that can carry passengers. That should already be switched on anyway. Don't show termini that can be reached sooner on a later vehicle. Don't need to worry about that. Show all stations called out regardless of loading or unloading. Don't worry about that. And merge identical departures. Don't think we want to worry about that either. So there you go. If I open this up all the way now, you can see where all the trains are going. So the next train that will be departing from GSG is heading towards Fort Flonwood Parkway. Now again, as I say, I might try and get it so that we can see. The only problem with that is if you set up separate companies and they can't all run on the same track. So I think there's a little bit of UI stuff that I can't do that I would like to have done. just so you can see what franchise it is that's operating the service. But the next train's leaving is going to Fort Falmouth Parkway. Then the next one is Kenville Airport, so that must be an overground service. Sunnington, and then you can also see where it's calling at. It's calling at Flame Junction, Drunton and Tenfing Bridge and Sunnington. So that's one of the West Wind Express services. And then we've got Leyhill, Bankside, so that's a metro train. Doesn't have a calling at the moment. Will it if I... No, not sure what's going on there. Bankside is this station here, which again might be rebuilt now that I've worked out how to make trains reverse at stations. Well, I'm quite happy with the layout of this. It's like my Edgware Road. Very happy with it. Then we've got Cadenbury Junction, Flame Junction, Shoreham Junction. Can I click on these? That gives me the train. What if I control click? No, doesn't work. Okay. This is a really nice new feature that Joker's put into his patch. The other nice new feature is, as I've said before, this button here. So if I control click on this now, it will keep all the wait times, but it will change all the journey times, and it will update it in real time. I think that's a really, really cool feature. So I will be doing that for all my services, even the ones that currently use RI. I will be going back through and automating, because it means you can let all trains go at the same time, and then it will start. For the first cycle, they'll all be bunched up together, but for the second cycle, it will start spreading them all out. And that's exactly what I want. And the fact that it will update in real time means that if one train is running particularly early, it will make sure the train behind it isn't directly behind it. So it will stop all those traffic jams that we've been experiencing. The final part of this episode that I want to talk about very quickly, and the final part of RI, is some of these station approaches here. So this one is a very good example. All of these station approaches, as well as adding new waypoints, they will also be rebuilt to conform to the new approach line system that we've got set up, like we have over here at GSMA. Now I know that it will work at all the other terminus stations because we managed to cram it into a 90-degree turn here with maximum success. I think this has actually worked out pretty nicely, particularly as I've added these extra lines and these extra lines here. Supply meets demand now, as it were, so that all these trains should be able to run through very efficiently indeed. So GSMI and GSP will probably be the first two to get the treatment because they look like they'll be the easiest, because pretty much all these lines run next to each other. All these bridges and stuff can be removed. The platform layout at this end of things might be moved slightly. We'll see about that to make sure that depot entrances and exits don't get in the way. I'll plan that out before I do this one. This one might be done last actually for that reason. GSG will also get the treatment. We kind of already have it on this line here, but what I'm going to do is extend the lines out into the water here and have it start from this point here all the way down and round and in. The two through lines here will be rebuilt probably around the back like that, so they will always be constant, but the rest of them will get rebuilt accordingly. The high speed here, I'm going to cut this bit off and extend the tunnel, or reduce the tunnel by a tile, so I can put signals at the end of this tunnel, and then down at this end of the tunnel, same thing, cut the tunnels back, move the tile back, and add signals in. Move the waypoint back as well, of course, and then add the signals in, so that we should be able to get more trains arriving and leaving from here at the same time, which would be very nice indeed. Sunnington, again, same thing. At some point up here, all the lines are going to merge. Maybe when the depot road here comes out, and then here we're just going to have it go along. It's going to be a bit more interesting, this one, because there's two lines conjoining, or converging I should say, and also it's coming down a hill, so there'll be bits where the land is extended so that all the crossovers and stuff can happen, and then it will just happily travel down the hill, another bit of a plateau where all the crossovers happen, just to make sure that this all works, which, you know, hopefully, fingers crossed, it should. There will be major disruption to services, which is why it's also good that we're sending people to the depot. Someone just... I think that was just a notification to say someone's followed me on Twitch. I don't know what that's about. Sorry if you heard that. If you didn't hear that, then you probably think I've gone mental. But yeah. The easiest one, I think, absolutely easiest, will be right the way over here at Gronwell, because there's so much space along here, for example. And there's a lot of space here as well that we can build lines. And with these depots, like this one here, I don't think is used at all. So that definitely needs to be changed. What's the departures like here? Yeah, pretty good. Pretty good. Right. And the high-speed line here will also be done like it will at all the other stations. That's about it for this episode. Not a lot's happened today, I admit that. Partly because I wanted to explain what RI was all about, so I didn't just jump in with a acronym, I think that's the word I'm looking for, that no one knew about. Abbreviation, sorry, that's what I want, not acronym. Abbreviation. Because I've been told off in the past for saying DLR and then not saying what DLR was, even though I did say what DLR was and the person who complained just wasn't listening. But we'll gloss over that. Also, at some point in the future, I will just have this departure board open with as many departures on it as possible. Stick it up in the corner like that and then just do a time lapse of GSG or something like that so you can see where all the different trains are coming and going from. So you'll be able to see every time a train leaves, you'll be able to go, oh, that's the such and such that's come from such and such. Also when the train arrives. So, for example, at Guard Lake, it's 3:41 at the moment, so I'm not sure what's going on there. The next train should be this one, the 3:53, that's leaving at 4:11. I need to change that actually, so that the timing's a bit better. But it's going to Flame Junction, so we know that much. And apparently it's expected at 6:05, so it's running incredibly late. Unless there's a problem with the UI. I don't know. I'm not going to say there's a problem with the UI, because I don't know enough about it to know whether that's true or not. So yeah, this episode was about explaining what RI is. Also, sending all the trains to the depot. And the last thing, this is bad news, guys, for everyone, is I've had a look. Today is Monday that I'm recording this episode. So I've had a look at the ideas list. And apart from a couple of additions in a couple of places, so for example, since the cut-off point on the town names, I've had the suggestions of Bubble, Tubbs, Lakeside, Soap City and Whitstoke. I know I said about theming the station names and theming the towns at Bar City. I'm not sure why Bubble, Tubbs and Soap City have been suggested. But there's that. And then for railway station names, we've had suggestions like Queen Mary, Queen Victoria, King Henry, King Edward, Prince Philip, King Charles. I think I'd go with Prince Charles because it's the more recent. I only said iteration, but they're not the same person. It's the more recent title that Charles has in the monarchy. And then again, Bar City, Tubbs, Soap, Lakeside, Bubble. Not really sure what those are about. I know what the theme is, don't get me wrong. I know the theme is like bathrooms and hygiene and stuff like that. So soap, bubble, you know, they're all linked. Why you'd have that as the name of major stations in a major city, I don't know. And then we also have Pacific, Atlantic, Prairie, Jubilee and Claude Hamilton. Now Claude Hamilton I wouldn't use anyway because it's too long. Pacific and Atlantic are geography based, so I can't really have a city with Pacific and Atlantic in the same name unless it happened to sit on both oceans, and the only way that would be possible is if it was on an island south of America. So no. As good as it is, it wouldn't really work in a geographical sense, because it'll always be, the way I always look at it is it's a nice suggestion, and I'm not saying it's a bad suggestion at all, because trust me, it's not. But I always see it in the context of, if I use that as a name, there will be a smart ass somewhere in the comments going, why have you decided to use both Pacific and Atlantic when your city sits on neither? So it's mainly protecting myself from smart arsery. That means I'm not going to use those for areas in Bar City. There is, of course, a possibility that other major stations across the map that sit on oceans will have those names instead. So stay tuned for that. Bus and tram stop names, which is the one that I really said, I stressed it about 4 or 5 times. That's the one that I needed. No suggestions. And it's for that reason, and pretty much that reason alone, that the suggestions list will be taken down as of this week. Anyone who's disappointed by that news, I can only apologise, but I said very clearly, lots of times, that I needed suggestions. And I might get a bit frustrated and ranty here, so you'll have to bear with me. But I'm actually quite annoyed by it, because whenever I made videos on Cities in Motion, well, Cities in Motion 2, people would always put in the comments, do this. Do this, do that, do it my way, essentially. Very demanding, very impatient. And if you didn't do things their way, they'd have a go at you and say, oh, you should have done it like this. I know YouTube is a very demanding medium. You know, I kind of prepared myself for that way back when anyway. But some people had some genuinely good suggestions, but they were kind of overshadowed by the demanders. And so when I started this series, I always had it in my head that if someone asked nicely for a suggestion, it would always be taken forward. Whereas if someone demanded, they would be ignored. And people have demanded on this series in the past, and they have been rightly ignored. Some people have tried to outsmart the creator, as it were. They've also been ignored to an extent. Some people ask lots of why questions, and it's not like, you know, why have you decided to route the railway through that valley instead of over this hill? It's not that kind of thing. So that's a genuine question. I'll always make time to answer questions like that. It was always things like, why have you decided to do it your way and not mine? Which, you know, first and foremost, I'm not psychic, so I don't know what you've suggested unless you put it in the comments. Second of all, if you've demanded that I do something, I am deliberately ignoring you. There's no coincidence about it. I am deliberately ignoring you, and I'll tell you that now, so that anyone in the future who asks something in a demanding way and then wonders why it's not been used in a video, it's because I've deliberately ignored you, because I don't like your tone. I'm not here for your convenience, as it were. I make videos because I enjoy it, and I want you guys to enjoy watching them too. But I'm not here just to please you. I'm here to make videos that everyone can enjoy, myself included. So if I feel like someone's being demanding, to start with, I'll ignore them, and then I'll ban them. And that's it. That's how I'm going to go. If people break my rules on commenting, I'm going to ban them. YouTube's a very volatile environment at the moment because of all these new guidelines that have been brought in. So as well as YouTube bringing in their own guidelines, I've decided to bring in some of my own, mostly to do with conduct in the comments. But, you know, where I'm going with this is, when I started this particular series, I thought I'll give people a voice. Because there are, as I say, there's some really, really good suggestions out there that get sort of washed away by the crap that other people decide to put in. So I wanted to make sure that people who had good ideas were able to express those ideas in an environment in which their ideas would come to the top. Which is why I created the suggestions list. And it was created to be used. You know, I wasn't going to critique people's ideas on an individual basis. I've read out some names there, but I've not actually said who's suggested them. And it's, you know, if you want to go on the list and find out who suggested them yourself, that's up to you. You can't anymore, because as I say, the list is taken down now, but you will be able to, you would have been able to in the past. And I'm not doing it to single people out, and I'm not doing it to go, huh, that's a stupid idea. I'm actually doing it so that I can look at the list and go, that's a really good idea. I'm so glad that that person has been able to express that idea. There's so much stuff. All of the route names on this network have come directly from people's suggestions, with one or two exceptions where very rarely do I come up with a name that I like to the point that I actually want to use it. But that has happened a couple of times, so I have used my own suggestions. It's not a selfish thing or anything like that. It's really on the priorities list. It's you guys come first, I come second. Which is why it's really disappointing that whenever I don't give people a voice, there's always someone who's just going on and on and on, wanting to be heard. And then when I do give you a voice, and it's the same people, actually, someone will go on at me like, do it my way, why aren't you doing it my way? And I'll say, well, what is your way? Tell me in the suggestions list. And then they go, I don't know. And then they don't follow it up. Like, all the people in the past where they've said something in the comments, and I've said, go over to the suggestions list, it's what it's for. And then I've checked on there and they've not done it. So, did you want to be heard or what? Were you just trolling? I don't know. But what I do know is, the suggestions list has been up for a number of months now, and the response to it is underwhelming at best. So my solution is just to take it down, because clearly no one wants to use it. I apologise to the individuals who were using it, but I will also argue that even those who were using it religiously at the start, it very much petered out after like a week or so. So there's that. I might in the future bring it back if people want me to. I will continue using suggestions from that list in future projects. I just won't make it so that people can add to the list anymore. In fact, I need to change the hang on, I'm going to try and do this on screen. Well, not on screen, but I'm going to narrate what I'm doing on camera. I'm going to change it so that people with the link can no longer edit the sheet. And that's it. I reign with an iron fist. I rule with an iron fist. I don't know why I said reign. I rule with an iron fist. It's been up for a long time, and it's incredibly frustrating that people just haven't taken on board the fact that I've been asking for months now for people to leave suggestions, and no one's done it. But I can guarantee you guys that tomorrow, as I say, I'm recording this on Monday, so tomorrow, Tuesday, I'll get a comment saying, do this, and a list of things that they want me to do. And the answer to that is no. No more. No longer. Do things my way now. Right. Anyone with a link can now view the sheet, but they can no longer leave suggestions. Hopefully that's worked. Fingers crossed. We'll find out, won't we? But that's it for this episode. I'm sorry it's ended on such a bad note, as it were. I know people will say in the comments, oh, he's just getting salty about it. If people say that, by the way, I hate that expression. What does that even mean? And it's not that at all. It's more fed upness. You know, I gave people a choice. Way back when, people didn't have a choice as to whether they wanted to make suggestions or not. And I felt really bad about that, because people did make spontaneous suggestions, and everything got used. Cities in Motion 2 was a really successful series in terms of interaction with the audience. Whereas this series has been a bit hit and miss, because there's been loads of people that suggested things like real world news, which has been really cool. I love talking about that kind of thing. And the fact when people suggest something or mention something that I've not heard of before, my instant impulse is to go look it up, so that I can talk about it, because I hate talking about things I don't know anything about as well, because, you know, that's what politicians do, essentially. But, you know, it's to try and stimulate conversation. It's to try and get people involved. It's also to try and get above the magic 1,000, so YouTube actually recognise me as a channel again. That's always nice. And that's why I'm most frustrated about the fact that it's not worked. Not the money. It's nothing to do with the money. It's the fact that the status that YouTubers get given these days, there's a real stigma about it. And one of the ways to prove them wrong is to create a community and actually do something good. And as it turns out, the community, they want a voice, but as soon as they're given the voice, they don't know what to do with it, so they just don't act upon it. And that's exactly what's happened here. People wanted a voice, so I gave them a voice, and now they're stuck. Like they don't know how to move forward with that. It's almost like out of surprise. They weren't expecting me to say, yeah, sure, that's no problem. So it's kind of fallen by the wayside a little bit. Like I say, in the future, I'm not against the idea of bringing it back. I'm not against that at all. I kind of want to be able to bring it back. But at this moment in time, it's gone. Because I'm so fed up of running out of ideas myself, going onto that list and just seeing nothing there. It's not a particularly nice feeling. It's a very depressing feeling, in fact. But yeah, I'm going to end the episode here. Next episode is going to be a lot more upbeat, because we're going to start placing new waypoints and redesigning routes and things like that. There's going to be lots of building work. I haven't actually decided yet whether it's going to be a time-lapse or not. And there's also the possibility that it might be late. If it is on Friday, it will be late. If it's not going to be on Friday, I will tweet out at least a day in advance and give my reasons why. Because I've got a very busy week this week. I had a busy week last week as well, which is why this episode's a bit empty in terms of actual action. It's just me staring at GSG for ages. But like I say, I apologise if people feel like I'm having a go at them unjustly. Then it's not you that I'm talking to. It's not you that I'm addressing. Trust me. There's a lot of people. I won't name names because I think that's unfair to single people out, even if it's for a good thing. But there are lots of people that have made this series successful. There are also lots of people who've made this series unsuccessful, and for the same reasons I won't name names. But hopefully you people know who you are, whether you fall on one side or the other. I don't want people to feel like they're in the wrong when they've done nothing wrong. So, you know, if you've made a suggestion and it's been included in the series, you are not one of the people I'm annoyed with. You're one of the people that I'm thankful for. If you're the opposite, if you're a demander, and then you've not gone and used the suggestions sheet, I am directly talking to you. You're the ones that I'm addressing. But like I said, next episode will be more upbeat. We'll start doing building work. We'll add waypoints. We'll do really cool stuff with speed limits. And we will press... Let me get it up on the screen again. We will be pressing this magic button. And this is the magic button that I said last episode fixes all of my problems. It doesn't necessarily stop the fact when two services are trying to access the same bit of track at the same time. But it does mean that the even spacing amongst trains within the same service becomes a lot better. So until then, guys, thank you very much for watching. I'm going to go have a cold shower or something to calm down, and then I'll start working on next episode. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and of course if you're enjoying the series, do drop comments down below with ideas for future episodes. If there's a particular rail route you want to see built, or if there's a particular station design you want to see used, use the comments section. Let me know, because I'm not psychic. I don't know what you guys want unless you tell me. Besides that, if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, be sure to click the subscribe button. If you have already subscribed to the channel, thank you guys for your continued support. And until next time, I will see you soon.